Over the past 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. Everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous, from presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Karyn Gallas, an entrepreneur who believes that constantly learning new things is what enables her to be the best at what she does. Karyn, it's a pleasure to say hello to you.
Hello.
Wonderful. So, Karyn, listen, I am an entrepreneur myself, so I am excited to find out from you, how did you come to be the owner of Schererville Glass and Mirror? Because I understand that is your baby.
Yes, 1987. My husband we were dating and he decided to start a glass business. Um, he was always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So he rented a small 700 square foot space. We got engaged shortly after that. In 1990, we got married. For the first 10 years, I worked at US Gypsum Company to support the business and our house and our family. And he built the business. I went back to college before I came back into the business for my business degree. From where I was working for a company called US Gypsum, which was a construction company as it was. And it was hard for me to leave my corporate job because I really, really liked it. But in the midst of that, I got pregnant with my first son and really wanted to stay home. So I left corporate Chicago and I came back to Schererville, which was unlike me because I was always a corporate girl
Mm-hmm.
and loved the city.
I live in Chicago also, so I'm curious, what is it that you love about the city? You and I have that in common.
At that time in the 1990s, it was fun. It was exciting. I was young. Everything was at my fingertips. You could walk around the city anytime you wanted to. There were so many restaurants. I had a ton of friends that lived in the city. Um, love the skyscrapers, love the hustle and bustle.
So
I,
something must have really, really pulled you to this wonderful man and a business and the work from home mom life to leave the city to go into suburbia, but mainly to be, that working wife and mom. You became that person.
in that first year, he was born in 1996, and I didn't come into the business till 1997. I thought I could stay home and do the mom thing. I just couldn't. I had worked for so many years in the city and it was so exciting. And he was wonderful, but there was just not enough excitement. So I actually stepped into the business because one day our secretary just never showed up. And
Mhm.
so it was a family business. So, my mom worked for us at the time and she was just like, we need help. You need to come in. So I brought my son with me. And from the minute my feet stepped into the door, we just took off running.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I understand that the business has really grown, obviously from
yes.
1987 to 1997, and then from 1997 on. So, what ways did you, working mom, entrepreneur, Renaissance woman, grow the business?
I think the biggest thing for me was to get it extremely organized. They were a bit unorganized when it came to scheduling customers, talking to them, knowing how to put paperwork together. And I was really good at it. And it seemed real easy for me because I was coming from a corporate environment where everything was like that. It was just systematic.
It sounds like you really took what I like to say the customer service approach and made it the foundation of your business.
I did. And in corporate America, I started off as a secretary. So I treated every customer like I was serving them any kind of need that they wanted, even if it was the smallest thing. We made everybody feel important. It made a big difference. And then, you know, it just built upon every day. It's always been a busy environment. The phone rings off the hook. So you have a lot of people to talk to and a lot of things to cover. Um, a lot of a lot of times there's not even enough time in a day to cover everything. But as far as changing it, as I came into the business, then my husband and I built a new business. We went from 700 square feet to 7,000 square feet.
Wow.
So we developed a fabrication plant based on the fact of learning. We had so much to learn about the business. He came into the business as a trade carpenter. He didn't really know that much about glass. He only worked for a glass company for like 6 months, and he was just like, I could do this. I go, okay, maybe you could find a different job eventually. And now it's a huge conglomerate where everybody in, our family works there. I mean, I never expected ever it to work out the way it did. We just worked really hard.
Clearly. And I'm just questioning whether or not you found it difficult to establish yourself as a woman in the construction field.
Yeah, that was really difficult. I mean, it was also my responsibility. I stepped into their world. That world was men. And at that time, I didn't realize how much they controlled it. I came from corporate America where people basically respected everything you did as a woman, and you learned things along the way. Well, in suburbia, it's kind of not like that all the time. You have to earn men's respect and learn who they are. In the beginning, I was just a secretary, so they really didn't think I knew much, So I sat back and I watched a lot of things, learned a lot of detail, tried not to interject and just add to the equation. I didn't want to mess anything up. But as the years went by, people would call back for jobs because we would have standard customers, standard people that are building houses that were our customers. And they just started to ask for me because they knew that I would get it processed. I would get it done. I would get anything you needed operated and into where you needed it. And so, I guess it's like any job, you earn people's respect, and then they respect you, but as a woman, there were a lot of times that men had a lot of negativity to say because they would say, the girl at the front desk, she doesn't know much, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And I was just thick-skinned. I was born and raised with 3 brothers. So I was basically knew how that men environment kind of worked.
You were not new to the game in terms of being with the fellas, not at all. I mean, as I listen to you talk, it just makes me think that you have a rich personal life and a rich professional life. So tell me what matters most to you, either personally or professionally.
One of the main reasons why I really worked, and I thought about this question a lot, was to provide a great life for my kids. I wanted my kids to have stuff that I didn't have, not because my mom didn't want to give it to me. She wasn't there. She didn't have the money to do it. So I wanted to work really hard to do something for them and build upon the skills that she gave me. So my first goal always was they were my first focus at all times. From the minute their feet were born. I mean, everything I did, I worked my life around them so I could surround them with everything that they needed, love, attention. I wanted them to go to private Catholic schools that cost more money. So I took all of my income and made that my responsibility at all costs. Our oldest son wanted to always be an aerospace engineer. So I would take him on trips to space camp that cost a lot of money and spend weeks with him at different engineering camps and things that costed other average American families more money. And so I just worked really hard, and they were my perfect focus. And for me, the business was spectacular in comparison to corporate, because I got to keep them with me. I had my own room where they had a playroom. Anytime that they needed something, I set them up with, babysitters that were in my space where I could watch what was going on. So I was always hands-on with them. I got to do everything with them in school. If I needed to leave, my secretary looked after the business for a couple of hours, and I went to school events.
Sounds like the best of both worlds. You get to do what you want, do what you love, make money at it, but also raise healthy, happy children, which is, a mother's dream.
It was I was just going to say, it turned out to be a big dream for me because it's really hard. Like a lot of my friends continued to work downtown, and it was hard for them to raise their kids and be away from them 10 hours a day, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I got the best of both worlds, and I got to run with them every minute, you know, all the time. And it's made me so happy.
Well, I
So
am so glad to hear that. When I first introduced you, I said you were an entrepreneur. I'd love to know, tell if you could tell me about some of your other business pursuits, because it's not just that one.
no, in 2008, when the market crashed, um, my husband decided to take on a bigger entity, which it was always his idea. I was the money person, and he was the man of ideas and risk. And I just had to figure out how we could get it done. But what he did was his parents. We have a strip mall where we built where our business is, and his parents built onto our strip mall. Well, in the process of the crash, they sold off some of the units, but they couldn't manage it, and they were about to lose it to the bank because they couldn't get them rented. So the bank opted to say, Karyn, I'll let you take over the mortgage, and I trust you. I know that you'll pay me. I know you'll go to the ends of the earth to do this. It's not going to be easy, and I won't make the transition difficult. I'll just put your name on these buildings. And so we became a real estate company overnight. And it was pretty spectacular because some of the banking guys that trusted me were younger than me. So I found that most of the people that trusted in me as a business owner were always the younger generation. Like they wanted to be a part of something bigger, so they would stand behind me. And so that was our first thing. We bought 4 units, consumed them really from my father-in-law. And then after that, we bought a house. Tom was a carpenter, and it was 2008, and the business was really slow. So we bought a house and flipped it. Him and I spent a lot of time. It was a big feat. That was the first time we ever did that. We built our own house in the process of that, and then sold that one as well. We just worked really hard to stay alive. He didn't want to lose the business, so he's like, we have to do something else to make up the difference. So I kind of just researched it on my own. And I tell my kids all the time, I didn't even have internet. I had to make phone calls. I had to go to banks and make meetings and, kind of hope that they would say, okay, you know what I mean? And take a risk on me.
Well, I love the fact that you were a risk taker, but I beg to differ when you say that you only dealt with people, quote, smarter than you are. I like to think of it as differently abled, okay? Because they might be smart in finance, but you make up for that in tenacity. You make up for that in drive. And so those are different abilities that really do make you a very smart person, in my very humble opinion. Karyn, I love that other people took a chance on you. So I have to flip it right now and ask you, how do you in turn give back to others?
My total focus was always my faith was first, my family, and then I knew all good things would happen if I just put them in that order. So I always give back to the church. I always gave back to the Catholic diocese that was here. We have we belong to the first founded church in Schererville, which is a big thing for me because our business is in Schererville. So my husband went to school there, my kids went to school there, and I just started to give back. I became a coach for 10 years for soccer when the kids were in school. I became a Eucharistic minister in the church just because it just gave me so much more peace, and on a weekly basis, it just gave me that ability to think about how the week was and how far we came, and to just take some time for myself. And it taught the kids how to appreciate the world around them. The church has done everything. Church and God has always been my first focus. It saves us through everything, through the worst of times and through the best of times.
Absolutely. Every setback with faith, in my opinion, is the setup for the next success. And so I think you have pursued that, and I'm glad you have the ability to share it with others, which probably brings me to the question that I always ask entrepreneurs: what are your goals for the future?
Right now, I really, both my sons, my youngest son just finished his bachelor's degree at Purdue.
Good for you.
My oldest son is an aerospace engineer and he's finishing his master's. I really want them both to finish their master's. I always wanted a master's degree, so I'm really focused on that with the two of them at this point. My youngest son is coming into the business, the glass shop, and then I'll just take over the real estate side of it and be real comfortable with that, redoing stuff or selling things off or buying new things. My youngest son's focus is to get his real estate's license. And so him and I can work together on a different angle, which I will appreciate so much. I really want to be the entrepreneur that passes it over.
Fantastic.
I started off and people didn't trust me. And like the people that were around me working, they would just walk out and never ask how much help I might need in the future. I don't want to be that person. I want them to be okay. I want to be happy for whoever takes over my position. And I just want to have a really good retirement, travel, spend some time with my husband. That's pretty quality compared to work the way we do it now. I mean, we still work 60 hours a week. I have a real focus on work. Sometimes most people say I'm addicted to it.
Karyn, what is the one thing you'd like the viewer of this video feature to walk away with today?
Always to remember that you're first. And I was always first with my faith and then with myself. So you can't be good to others until you're good with yourself. And to look after yourself, whether that's once a week, taking a walk or going to church or, telling somebody they look nice or whatever makes you a better person in that space. And to always remember, getting to where I've been hasn't been an easy road. It's been a lot of hills and valleys and experiences that I never thought I would have, but every step of the way has been very successful. And so it's made me so happy. Even in the worst of times, I always learned something and I went back and I changed it and I focused on how to be a better person, and not just through the business, but as myself, because I wanted people, I respected myself. I wanted other people to respect me as well. And I think that in business, people forget those terms, like the men that I know very well in big companies, sometimes I call it barking. They're barking down at you. Just treat each other with respect. We're on the same playing level. I want to help you. You want to help me. Okay, we're all going to get this done together as a team. I'm really big into team effort.
I agree with you. I mean, my favorite phrase is to women who I get an opportunity to mentor. I say, put your big girl pants on and let's try again, because nothing beats a failure but a try. So let's go for it. And I just appreciate how motivated you've been and what an example you are for other women entrepreneurs and women who are trying to find that integration in their life of work and life and family and relationships, health and happiness. And I think that you've done it very, very well. So bravo, Mrs. Dallas, bravo.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have chatted with you today. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you.